down that vote!
You heard the rest. Now here's the best. Stay Tuned Sports Podcast.
And hello there, all you Stay Tuners. Welcome back to another episode of Stay Tuned Sports. It's your good friend Jimbo here by myself for this wonderful episode. Hopefully Shoulders and Allentown could be back next week. We may try to sneak an extra one in this week with them. Both had work or something like that, but I'm here, so we could enjoy ourselves here, talk a little NHL and some rodeo talk. But before we get into the show, head over to Twitter, follow us there at ST Sports Podcast, as well as our Facebook page if you could like and share that, as well as our YouTube channel. And then once you guys start following us on Twitter and Facebook, if you notice, we actually have a new t-shirt out for sale on Teespring, making fun of the excuse that Deontay Wilder is coming out saying why Tyson Fury beat him this past weekend, which I will get into when I have our combat episode in a couple of days. Speaking of that part too, we're actually going to be switching up when our episodes come out. We normally do Friday and Saturdays in the morning. We're going to switch it up to Thursdays and I believe Tuesday mornings around 9-10 o'clock Eastern is when they should be getting distributed through iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you guys listen to us. You could even head over to podchaser.com to look up our episodes there. And while you're there, leave us a review and a rating. Let us know how we're doing there. So a lot of interesting stuff happened this past week. To kick it off, I actually want to talk about this whole emergency goalie thing that happened last weekend on Saturday for the Carolina Hurricanes. So how the story went was both of the Hurricane goalies were injured and they had to call upon a emergency goalie. The gentleman's name is David Ayres. Now, the reason why this is kind of funny is the Hurricanes were playing the Maple Leafs. David Ayres actually has practiced with the Maple Leafs, has been to a couple of their practice sessions, and he is a Zamboni driver for the Toronto Marlies. So if you actually Google him, when he was when he played as the Hurricanes goalie, he actually has the Toronto Marlies helmet on, wearing a Carolina Hurricanes jersey. He had to come in the third period. The first, he let two goals in right off the bat. Actually, I'm sorry, he came in, I think it was like late second period, because I remember reading that he told the guys between the second and third intermission, don't worry, he'll calm down now. And sure enough, he did. He stopped 8 of the 10 shots to get the win in a 6-3 win. The other thing that's kind of incredible about this too is he is a kidney transplant survivor. So, I mean, this is all screaming, Disney movie all over, like Cinderella Man or, Mighty Ducks, Miracle. Speaking of which, happened this past week was 40 years, or 1980. So yeah, so 40 years since the miracle of USA beating the Soviets. Which really good movie with is it Kurt Russell? Yeah, Kurt Russell. Really good movie though. But on the flip side of this, about bringing up the emergency goalie, the GMs are supposed to be getting together this week. I guess like a team owners meeting get together to discuss the rules of the emergency goalie. So right now, what it is, if you're an emergency goalie, you have to be available to either team, and only gets paid $500. But hey, what's the chances of it happen? The last time it happened was 3 years ago with Brian Foster during the Blackhawks game. Now, I think why they want to talk about it is the fact that, yes, it doesn't happen a lot, but in this case where he actually has played or practiced with the Toronto organization, whether it was with the Marlies or the Maple Leafs themselves. Now, they did get some quotes from Toronto's GM saying basically it was a lose-lose situation for the Maple Leafs. Because on one hand, if they lose, which they did, they'd be a laughingstock because they lost to their goalie, a player that they practice every day with, or at least a little bit to know what his tendencies or how good he is. But also on the flip side, if Toronto came back and won, well, I mean, come on, he's part of that organization. Of course he's going to let, those goals in and blah, blah, blah. That part of it, I don't believe would happen. I hope it wouldn't happen, just for the fact that, for the sake of the game, and if they did want to change it, how would they change it to make it fair for either team? One aspect that actually I was just thinking right now, kind of think about how the NFL has an emergency quarterback. With the Philadelphia Eagles for a while there, it was Brian Mitchell when he was with the team. So do you have like a defenseman or a center be your emergency goalie? I mean, I don't know how well that would go, but at least this way, okay, yes, he's probably going to be not as good as a 42-year-old Zamboni driver goalie, but at least you'll eliminate the fact or the conspiracy theory of, oh, well, he played for the other team, so he let those goals go in. I really, other than that type of idea, I really don't see how they could change this to make it fair for both teams, other than pray and hope that when this does happen, they don't have a guy go in there that just throws a game so his team wins if he's in there going up against them. But this David Ayres is a cool story. I'm actually really happy for him because even he's a Canadian resident, and Carolina actually brought him in this past week to kind of honor him as a Carolina resident. Did like a little get together, honorary moment type deal. So sticking with some hockey, obviously the trading deadline was this past week. Now, I was hoping that we would have Shoulders and Allentown on here because obviously I'm a Flyers fan, Shoulders Penguins fan, and Allentown Islanders fan. Looking just at our three teams, I mean, there was a lot of trades that happened. I think I saw 37 or 38 within the first or the last few hours. But just looking at ours, going with the Flyers, I'm actually okay with what they did. I don't think they gave up too much. I know some fans are upset that Farabee got loaned down to Lehigh. Frost is down there. Here's the thing. They're 19, 20 years old. They're young kids. Yes, they are playing very well. I'll give them that. But we're on the cusp of making the playoffs. I mean, I know we're in the wild card hunt right now, or I mean in the first or second seed for a wild card. If we have a chance to make the playoffs, why not try to, make a couple moves to get farther into the playoffs and not sacrifice anything for the future? I think being sent down is not going to hurt them as far as their confidence. And on top of that, obviously they're going to be number one guys down there. It's going to be good to get some good ice time on their hands that they're going to have to be the guys to score. And that's just going to help down the road, especially maybe even in the playoffs if they get called up. So the couple guys that the Flyers traded for, they got Nathan Noel for TJ Brennan, which, TJ Brennan's a good player, but again, to make the playoffs, never really made it up to the Flyers. It was always a Lehigh Valley Phantom guy. I'm okay with that trade. And then we also got Derek Grant from the Ducks for Kyle Criscolo and a fourth-round pick this year's draft. The only red flag I think I may have is the fact that these two could play a center on the third and fourth line. Are the Flyers not expecting Nolan Patrick to come back? I mean, I know he just started practicing last week. He hasn't played all year because of the migraines that he had going on. But if he is coming back, I wonder where they're going to put these guys. Now, as far as the Penguins, they got Connor Sherry back, who pretty much started his whole career with Pittsburgh, and also got Evan Rodriguez for Dominique Cahoon. Now, I have Baby Penn's tickets, Wilkes-Barre Scranton, so I got to see a lot of Cahoon play. Not a bad player, and honestly, I think that's a good trade for Pittsburgh. Connor Sherry coming back to a organization that he knows very well, so he should fit right in comfortably. And Evan Rodriguez, to pick up another player on top of Sherry was pretty good. Now the Islanders got Jean-Gabriel Pajot for a 2020 conditional first-round pick, a 2020 second-round pick, and a 2022 conditional third-round pick. Honestly, I think the Islanders may have overpaid. Even in any sport, I don't like trading a first and a second-round pick in the same year. That is huge. That's a lot of capital that you're giving away. And on top of that, you're giving another pick. Granted, it may be 2 years away, but that's a lot of picks. He's a very good player. Don't get me wrong. But I don't know if he was worth that much to give away. So, as far as the Penguins, I like their trade. Flyers, I like their trade. Islanders, not so much. So hopefully, if we got Shoulders back and Allentown back next week, we could bring this back up and see how they feel about their teams going forward after these trades. So we're going to take a quick break here, and we will be right back with some NFL news, the CBA and some rodeo news. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is your good friend Jimbo from Stay Tuned Sports. Are you looking to get into writing or putting out podcasts to give you your hot takes or your opinion about certain subjects of the major sports or even e-gaming? Well, head over to bellyupsports.com and send the guys a message to get some information about how you could join our family. I've been part of the Belly Up Sports family since February, and I'll tell you what, it's a bunch of great guys and gals, help each other all out, and don't judge each other about what we put out there. So if you're interested, head over to bellyupsports.com, send a message to the guys. We're looking for writers, editors, even podcasters. So again, that is bellyupsports.com. Head over there, message them, and even read some of our articles. And welcome back, guys, to Stay Tuned Sports. It's your good friend Jimbo here. So before we left, I said that there's some rodeo news to talk about. Well, in case you guys haven't seen, this came out about 2-3 days ago. Madsen Bumgarner is actually I wouldn't say a professional rodeo horse rider, but in the off season, especially in December, he actually has a team roping. He entered a team roping competition and won $26,000. Now this brings up some red flags. Especially he just signed with Arizona Diamondback in this off season. Signed a 5-year deal, $85 million. And before the signing, the GM and the D-backs coach did not know about this. Now, the GM did come out and say that he knew he was a very strong horseman, but said that even if he knew about him being in rodeo contest, would never affect his decision to sign him, which I believe, because a very good pitcher like that, there's going to be some incidences where you're going to look past. And I'm glad to see that Madsen is doing this, and I'm sure there's other players out there that have contract stipulations saying that you can't do this, can't do that in the off season. Because we got to remember, these guys are still humans. They're going out there 9 months out of the year and putting on shows on for us fans. They still got to live their life a little bit. Now, unfortunately, we do see sometimes that some of these athletes live it the wrong way, a.k.a. Greg Robinson of the Cleveland Browns or Kareem Hunt or Antonio Brown. But as long as you're, being careful, I'm okay with it. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about it. But the fact that, the GM and the coach said this is a non-issue, I got a little bit, respect for them for saying that. Now, on the flip side, though, with Bumgarner, he did injure his shoulder in 2017 in a dirt bike accident and missed 3 months of the season. If I'm a GM, I'm going to say, okay, fine, you want to do all this extreme sports type stuff and, high risk that you could get injured, I'm fine with it. But if you miss any time due to this, you're going to pay us some back. Now, I'd be curious to see if the contract that he signed has anything like that. But I just found it funny. The reason why I bring this story up is he went with an alias. He didn't use his actual name, Addison Bumgarner. He went by Mason Saunders. And the fact that, like, no one picked him out who he was is funny as well to me. But, yeah, like I said, I just thought this was a funny story. Here's a Major League Baseball player using a alias name to do off-field stuff to kind of, you know, be something more than an athlete. Just be a normal person for once. So before I came on to record, you know, a little update on the NFL CBA agreement. I'm assuming the vote, or, you know, the players got together today to talk about it, didn't go so well, because I seen Maurice Pouncey's Instagram video basically saying screw that deal. You know, the owners aren't worried about the players that aren't the big stars. You know, one of the thing they're trying to get is the minimum salary to get bumped up. Now, from my understanding, the owners put a 20% raise in there, which would take it from $510,000 to, I believe, $600,000. And some of the players actually wanted to get bumped all the way up to $1 million. Now, if you think about it, and you could probably look this up, little more than half of the players in the league play on or pretty close to the minimum salary. You know, if you look at every team, you only have maybe 2 or 3 big stars that are making the, you know, $20-30 million a year. You know, just the Eagles alone, you got, you know, Carson Wentz making 30. Lane Johnson's up there, probably making 20-25. Fletcher Cox, he's making close to 20, you know. So you only got 2 or 3, but then you got like the guys like Boston Scott, Corey Clement, you know, Nate Gary. You got a lot more players playing closer to that $500,000 veterans minimum. So when I first saw that, I'm like, get out of here. $1 million for Joe Schmo, who shouldn't probably even be in the league. You could probably go to the XFL and find better players. But if the league's made up pretty close to half of those players, and for a deal to go through, you need at least half of the players, which there's about 2,100 players in the league, in the union. You need half plus one more vote to make a deal go through. If half the league is made up of those players and they're not getting that big enough bump, that's definitely going to be a no. And on top of that, majority of the players, and this has been from the get-go, are against the 17th game. Now, me and Shoulders talked last week about that 17th game. You know, would we be for it or against it? And they're supposedly going to take one of the preseason games away to add that 17th game. If this deal were to go into effect, it would not start this year. It would start between next season or the following 2 seasons. That is the window that the owners have to announce when they want that 17th game. The playoff scenario where they want to add one extra team to the playoffs would happen this year. Now, one reason why the owners may want to get this deal done quickly is because the TV deals are up after this year. So they want to get these deals done, and they want to have some sense that they have the players behind them, to negotiate this deal, to figure out, to, obviously get the best deal they could. Some other aspects of this proposed deal is the players' revenue would get bumped up from 47%, I believe it is right now, to 48%, with it going up to 48.5% over the next couple of years. The thing is, I don't think it's going to get done. I really don't, and I think the owners are going to give it another week or two, and if they don't get a yes on it, I believe they're going to pull this deal. And the reason why I say I don't think it's going to get done is the union's executive council actually voted 6-5 not to recommend the deal to the union membership. And when the players had a call with the council, they spent more time trying to figure out why they voted no than actually going into detail about the pros and cons of it. So it just sounds like all the players, even the player team reps, aren't on the same page. It seems like there's too many moving parts going on for a vote to get this approved. And now a lot of the players believe the owners are bluffing when they say, you got another week or two, and then if you guys don't say yes to it, then we're pulling it. But honestly, I think the ball is in the owners' side right now. I think they hold all the cards, because let's just think about this for a second here. If the players say no, and come next year, next March, and there's still no deal in place, and the owners lock the players out, well, I guess they can't lock the players out, because I was going to say, why not pick some of these XFL players up? Obviously we're seeing PJ Walker and his receiver Phillips playing very well. There's some good defensive players out there. Obviously the product won't be as good as if we have Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady and all of them in there, but they'll still be able to put out some form of good football. Now, if they lock the players out, I think that's a lawsuit they would have. But I think the owners have all the leverage here. And on top of that, they are worried that they are giving up too much, because even though the owners voted to send this deal over to the players to vote on, it didn't get voted unanimous. And there were some owners that said, even though they said yes, they still feel like they gave up a lot. And I don't think they did, though. I think, honestly, this is a fair deal for both sides. Let's just say if the veteran minimum gets pushed up to $1 million, okay? You have 2,100 players in there. Half of them play around that veteran minimum. So that's 1,000. So you're looking at about $10 million just to them. Another part of it that the players want upped, but right now, with the current deal, the NFL covers players that are out of the league up to 5 years. Most of those players are out of the league because they're not that good. And these players want 10 to 15 years. I would put some type of you need to have 10 years of NFL service to get that 10 to 15 years. If you want to keep it 5 for, Joe Schmo who couldn't make it on the Cleveland Browns, fine. But if you're good enough to even, bounce from team to team to team, then I think you do deserve that 10 to 15 years, because football isn't like it used to be where you have guys, a lot of guys, playing 10, 12 years. I mean, just the past couple of years, look at how many under 30-year-old players have retired. So if you have players, say you put it on there, have to have 8 years of NFL service. Most of these kids that are getting drafted or coming out of college, they're 20, 21 years old. They play for 8 years. It's 29. You give them the 10 years of health care. That takes them to 39 years old. They have the money saved up, as long as they do it the right way, that they could, get their own health insurance and stuff like that. But for people that have only been in there for 5 years, out of the league for 5 years, I don't think they deserve coverage, for 10 to 15 years longer. The 17 game, I think there should be some type of like asterisk saying, okay, if we make $1 billion for the 17th game, your revenue gets bumped up to 49%. Right now, it's all projections. And I think if by adding that 17th game, if it goes beyond that projection, the players should get a little bit more of a bump, because they're the ones putting their health on the line here, not the owners. All the owners are doing is lining their pockets a little bit more. But like I said, I mean, I think this is a fair deal for both sides. I'm just hoping that, they come to agreement sooner than later. So, but I think that is going to be it this week. Like I said, this is going to air Thursday, I believe, like around 9, 10 o'clock Eastern time. And then we have a UFC fight Saturday, so I may just, throw my picks out there on Twitter, which you can find us at ST Sports Podcast. And then I'll have my combat episode on that following Tuesday. So, like I said, head over to Facebook, like and share our pages there, as well as our YouTube channel. And check out our Teespring page. If you go on our Twitter there, I believe I still have our Teespring store pinned to our Twitter page. Head over there and you can pick up the new Deontay Wilder shirt. So, till then, till Tuesday, this is your good friend Jimbo, signing out.